G'day, mate. Welcome to Friday Facts 324. We got sound design, we got animated trees, we got optimizations, and I got a Mojo who's actually away for the weekend. Hey, you mate.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing good. You're obviously away, enjoying yourself, and we're doing this with you on the mobile phone this time, or the mobile internet.
It's my turn to be doing the mobile option.
Yeah,
which has been holding out pretty good so far.
Yeah, it's holding out well. My connection, obviously, with the Discord server is great because I'm at home. I have no idea what yours is like, and
I have no idea how to tell on the mobile.
Yeah. But as you can all tell, Mojo sounds slightly different. It's going to be
in a room or something.
Yeah,
it's a good headset.
Yeah, he's on the phone because he doesn't have to do the recording half, so he's got the easier half this time round. Well, every time round. So he's just going to
every time
show up and just say words. So he didn't have to take the laptop or anything, just the phone, just the headset, and away he went.
I've gone above and beyond. I got the FFF on my laptop.
Oh, wow, he's taken a laptop with him that hasn't turned off or run out of battery or failed, has it?
No, because it's a good laptop.
Okay, so he's doing way better than I did. All right. So this week's Friday Facts, we've got a few things. We've got the Factorio logo patches, which are already in the eShop, and I've got to say, I really, really, really like them.
They're pretty cute.
They're sew-on patches, which means you have to find somebody in your family that either knows how to sew, or you need to go to a shopping centre where they seem to have pop-up like seamstress tailors everywhere that'll just do small alterations. But yeah, I really like them, and they're actually really, really cheap. I already looked, and they're like $4.50 each.
That's pretty good. What's the... Yeah, and they're like 12 centimeters long, which is not small.
No, look, on my screen, as I'm looking at it, with the size of my screen and everything, I'm basically looking at a 1-to-1 for it, and it's... They look really good. They look... The fact that they managed to get the two-tone colours with the Factorio logo, my only passing comment was I'd like to see, rather than having the cut in all the way across the top and all the way across the bottom, I'd like to see those as straight edges. That's my only comment.
Which is straight edges?
Just the top and the bottom. From the F to the gear, top and bottom, or the F to the O, right? I just like to see that as a straight edge.
Right.
It makes it stitching it easier. Because it's the sort of thing that if I got some, which I'm actually really considering doing, because if I grab 3 of these, because they have a max order of 3 of them, and shipping and a shirt, I actually think for some reason the shipping's cheaper if I add these rather than the shirts, because the shipping was like $4.50 or something. But hopefully Woob doesn't find that out till after I publish the video, after I've already done my order.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. So, I really like them.
Reminded me, I need to hurry up and get some t-shirts.
Haven't you ordered the new set of t-shirts? No, you got an original t-shirt.
No.
Oh, well, they're definitely not going to make it here for Christmas.
Yeah, well, the original one didn't make it anywhere near close for Christmas. It came in like Feb.
No, but they were bombarded first time around. I give them passing grace on that one. Unfortunately, with these launched, they're probably going to be bombarded again. So,
I had a week's head start on everyone else on the original one.
Oh, you did? And you still managed to get it last?
And I still got it last.
The joys of living in Australia. So, second part of the Friday Facts. Oh, and I do want to comment, this is like one of the few posts from Chiquita, which is the office manager girl. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're right, actually.
I don't know whether it was...
actually a few of the lesser seen people at the sound design part.
Oh, yeah, the sound design... Well, the sound design's a brand new person, so they get bonus points. So we have Ian, the sound designer. So he was brought in to finish up the sounds for version 1.0. It was felt that having a sound designer was needed to work at the Prague office to help implement the sounds and improve the audio vision. So I'm assuming the current sound guy, who I can't remember his name, but is written in this Friday Facts, doesn't actually work on site. I'm assuming he's another one of the off-site guys. So, yeah.
I think he's in the US.
I'm assuming so, because I think most of their team is... I think they got 1 or 2 in Europe, couple in the US, and everybody else in Prague. When I say Europe, inside Europe, outside Prague.
Germany.
Yes. Yes, from memory. So, one of the things they want to do is make some quick wins, so they decide to play with the biter footsteps first. And they were trying to make each individual footstep sound different depending on what terrain it was on. Because he remembered a nightmare with a giant spider's footsteps from a Harry Potter game years ago, which I didn't play, but I do remember hearing about this one particular scene where, yeah, a spider comes out and each footstep, depending on where it lands, makes a different sound. So it was...
I've actually heard of that one.
It was... I think it was one on the I want to say PlayStation 2.
Okay, so a while ago.
It was a while ago. Or maybe it was when they ported it to PC. Whatever. So he did decide to make a simpler solution. So now we do is play one sound shot for each cycle of the walk animation. He started sourcing sounds from libraries so he could rapidly prototype something. He took eggshells cracking sounds, added them to the video of the walk animation, and then managed to create something pretty good for the biter steps and movements. They are going to add more improvements later. And then also the biters have more of a crackle and the spitters have more of thuds, which I always thought like on a weight measurement, biters would be heavier than spitters. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know, they're roughly about the same size, but
it's kind of equal.
Yeah. I don't know. It's one of those things I just didn't even think about till I read these Friday Facts. I'm like, yeah, okay.
But I mean, it does specifically, like, it does comment the bigger the enemy, the bigger the footsteps. So,
yeah.
Like, small are going to have small footsteps.
Yeah.
Big bar is going to have big footsteps.
Yeah. But I got to admit, after playing the sound, which I need to turn all the way up, it's creepy. It's really...
Yeah, lucky for you, I haven't actually listened to it yet.
It's sort of how you'd imagine if you found your basement full of cockroaches and you aimed a very good microphone down to the basement.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, yeah. Yup.
Oh, that's delicious.
Yeah. You like that analogy, do you? Yeah, it's creepy. Creepy. But yeah, it's like sound is such an important part of game design. It's one of the things that Satisfactory did really, really well. Their sound is top notch.
It's very good.
Yeah, and it makes you feel like you're actually in the game. Sound is one of those things that a lot of companies I know overlook because it's not visual and graphics seem to sell games nowadays. But the sound probably has a bigger impact than anything you see on the screen.
It really adds another depth, another whole dimension.
Yeah. So, we also have, in regards to other enemy sounds, it seems to me that spitters and biters sounded too similar as something I wanted to change. If we can distinguish between the sounds made by the enemies, also adds variety to the fun factor. I don't know about that. That's the other sound designer. Val has made some new sounds for the spitter idols in order to bring out their squishiness and make them even more disgusting. And
I like how it just puts it out there. It's not trying to dawdle around it. It's just straight to the point.
Yeah. We're trying to make these things as gross as possible. We really want your skin to crawl whilst playing Factorio. Thanks, guys.
It's just what you want to hear when you're minding your business, working on your smelter.
Oh, well, look, I don't know. In some respects, it'd be nice to hear them coming, but then again, I have a feeling it's one of those things I'm going to start dreading. I'm going to have to turn the volume down because, like, when the new worms came in. Before they adjusted the volume, they were really loud and they were really
pretty loud.
They were really scary as well. You'd hear them, you're like, no, stop moving. I need to find out where that worm is before I move any further because their range got upgraded and they're gonna kill me.
And that homing spit became targeting.
Yeah, the fact that you can now dodge it now, that's also been a big difference. But that only helps if you know what direction they're in. So yeah, he's been adding new sounds to the game, playtesting and tweaking them. And he did say, for example, I chose better sounds for enemies dying in order to give them clearer player feedback. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what new sounds come with version 1780 or version 18. One of them's going to have an 8 in it, so yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll see one of them by Feb 30.
Yeah, Feb 30, probably. Then we have animated trees, which is something that came up previous Friday Facts when we had animated water. Trees were definitely on the top of everybody's list. So,
They've really been hammering these out lately, haven't they?
I think it's just a lot of work sort of coming together at once.
Yeah.
Because
It's a lot of low-level logic that's been coming together that doesn't show any immediate result, and now it's starting to show the result of what they've been able to do with it.
Yeah, well, look, we did have water was being worked on for 12 months before it showed up. So I think like animated trees, water, the sounds probably as well. They've been in the pipeline for a lot of time. They're just all sort of hitting at once, which is really, really good. So we've got last week there was a big request for trees that were animated, and they knew in advance. It seems like we were reading their minds. And
I have a feeling they already done it.
Yeah, I have a feeling they already did it, and they just like, here's water, and then obviously trees are going to come next. If they showed us trees first, we'd be like, yeah, the water's not animated, nobody bring it up. It'd be one of those things that people just wouldn't care about. But they do say, and this is the one that got me to start with, there's always the running sound of wind in the game.
There is.
Is there?
Yeah, especially when you can hear it more as you zoom out.
Okay. Maybe it's just one of those things that I just don't hear anymore. It's like spending too many years playing Diablo and then Diablo 2, and now I can play Diablo 2 with the sound off, and I still hear all the audio. So yeah, they've animated trees. They've also animated the shadows as well. And it makes the effect on top of the water somehow much better, which I do tend to agree. Like it's one of those really minor things you probably won't be able to see it in the video. By all means, open on a PC. This is one of those subtle differences. It's worth opening on your PC, even if you're watching the video on your phone. I recommend sitting down at a computer for 5 seconds, opening the Friday Facts, and looking at these images. But yeah, it's a subtle movement, and I really like it. It really does bring the game a little bit more to life.
Yeah, it certainly does. I actually had to really look closely to even see.
Well, it's now that I've looked at it for like the third time today, because I've been ready all day. We were meant to do Friday Facts first thing this morning, and Mojo got busy with in real life stuff, which I understand.
Yeah, things happen. Things didn't work out the way I'd hoped.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be a few blocks of free time, and it never happened.
Yeah, life's like that. But now I'm realizing the grass is not animated. Can I put in a feature request? Can we get the grass done?
Oh dear.
I like it. This is the thing about games.
That.
It's feature creep. It's just you do one thing, the water leads to the trees, which is probably going to lead to the grass. It's just the shrubs that are sticking out. They just need something. So, yeah, they got the trees done. They got the trees done, and I forgot to highlight this part. Waybags came in with a very nice prototype. And who's doing this one? Albert. Albert got re-engaged with the idea. Sometime after that, because Waybags left, Emistez came back with a new prototype based on different technique. That was also interesting. Subject got moving again. And then Alazan, who's the new guy in the office, who's been a recent hire.
He's actually been hired.
Yeah, we covered that like 2 Friday Facts ago, Mojo. Pay attention. And there was silence. He's the cars on belts guy. Right?
Yes, he is. He's been in Soul Access for a while.
Yes. Right. So yeah, the recent hire actually started playing and getting this finalized. So this is when we move into the technical part of the Friday Facts. So we have tree shader integration. You probably forgot something if it works on the first try, which is 110% right in every aspect of life. If something works the first time round, it was too easy, it means it's broken.
Yep. So, or something was broken.
Yeah, something was broken either before you laid your hands on it or afterwards. So, the GPU renders a texture pixel by pixel, and each pixel, roughly speaking, initially knows where it has to be on the screen. A shader is necessary to give it extra information to arrive at the color it's ultimately supposed to have, and it acts a little bit like color by numbers. Normally, they just want to pass these numbers one for one straight from the game engine, the original textures straight onto the screen. But to animate trees, they want to just flip things slightly. And we can see that, being a color by numbers, that if the screen has these numbers and these textures and we end up with these colors on the screen, same on the right hand side, if you give the texture random numbers, you're going to end up with basically a little bit of a randomization on the screen. So what they did is, rather than just giving it random numbers, they were a little bit more crafty than that. They passed in, rather than the pixel it was meant to be, it'd be a pixel adjacent to that. So below, above, left or right, it'd be one of those pixels, and then repeat the process every couple of seconds. So it gives you the impression that things are moving because the pixels are not exactly perfect. They're a little bit off every single time. And it just gives you that impression that things are just moving a little bit, which is a really interesting way of getting the very first prototype up and running.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So it's just moving the pixels around instead of actually moving the image around.
Yeah,
on the actual screen.
It's not even that. It's I guess it's if you put your face too close to a fly screen and then try and look through even a static image, because you've got that distortion so close to your face, a static image is going to look like it has a little bit of movement to it. And they're basically doing the same thing. Rather than moving the image, they're just shifting all the pixels just a little bit, and it just gives your eyes the impression of movement. But to implement it, they arrived at working version very quickly, because they just copy part of the existing shader code straight from the prototype into the Factorio code. But then trees can be drawn many ways inside the game, which comes down to all the different graphic options they have inside Factorio. So we've got high versus normal, resolution textures, no high or low quality compression, full or half color depth, leaves decreasing the amount of pollution damage. So they have 4 stages to how decayed and screwed up your trees are, depending on how well your factory's doing. The leaves also go more and more brown as you apply more pollution to each one of the trees. So your trees have many, many different grades of deadness. And they can be rendered as part of the game world or as part of the GUI. So I'm guessing the game world is when you're looking at it, and the GUI is probably the transparency of stuff like the tech tree. Because that's the only time I can... Yeah. Think of it showing up in the GUI. So... yeah, they've got 48 different ways to render trees, which means a lot of testing to make sure that when you've added the code, it works for all different 48 variations. Which probably means he was staring at moving trees for a very, very, very long time. Which...
it's just like the literal watching grass grow.
Yeah, but it also means that the more you look for something, the more you're going to not be able to see it. Which is why they added a debug overlay. So he's added this lovely debug overlay which does... the debug has 3 different levels. It's the red level shows displacement, so the moving pixels in the horizontal direction. Green channel is for the vertical. Blue channel is how much the distortion is scaled in order to account for different texture resolution. And then we've also got white, which is like a mixture of all 3. So as long as it looks like you're getting a mess of different colors, you're doing a good job. If it's one solid color in any of these different forms, then it means some part of the code broke. So good news, when 18.17.80, whatever comes out, we're probably going to have a new debug option. I'll make all the trees look purple.
Yeah, the acid trip tree.
Yeah. For Actually, now I really, really want to go over to mates who plays Factorio and just turn on this debug option for him and just load up the game, turn it on, quit, just walk away. Just because it's going to take a while for him to find where the option got turned on. I'm not going to even bother with this, but basically they're using normal mapping to get the distortion level, and that's pretty much it. That whole 2 paragraphs. And normal mapping's been around forever, basically. Along with BC5 compression, which is something we covered way, way, way long ago, but they didn't cover BC5 compression in the Friday Facts 281. They covered BC1 and 3. So, okay, whatever. I went and reread an old Friday Facts.
Just a minor detail.
Yep. So when it was almost done, he was hit one last realization. I forgot something. Moving tree leaves should result in their shadows moving too, right? So after getting all the trees moving, he forgot about the shadows.
One job.
Yeah, one job. So had to go back to another special shader that just makes the trees move, which technically means if your tree leaves shimmy to the left, there's a good chance that because they're 2 separate things, the shadow might shimmy to the right, and you just can't question it, okay? Otherwise, RCD will have to deal with it. Which leads us to optimizations, and...
Fortunately, RCD's been busy doing optimization.
Yeah, and look, RCD, in case you don't know, he streams on Twitch, and he actually streams a couple of different games. On top of that, he also streams, like, coding Factorio. And if you jump on his streams, occasionally he'll answer questions, and he's a very technical guy. And I'm really, really amazed that when I get on a stream, I ask a question that might have a yes-no answer. I get a 5-minute rant, which is very informative. I'll say that much. It's normally...
Very informative. You may or may not necessarily understand anything you said.
Yes, and I may not get an answer to my question because I was looking for a yes or a no, and the answer he gave me, I can't understand. But when he writes a Friday Facts, it's the exact opposite. He makes very, very hard to understand technical stuff very, very easy for everybody to understand, which is something I really, really appreciate. So, few parts of the code base end up being slow relative to everything else, and the reason why it always simplifies down to edge cases, which is normally because they've had to put in an edge case for something silly, and we're about to cover burner inserters, which is something that you don't use all that often, but important to have all these edge cases in there in case you need to use burner inserters. So, 3 years ago...
It turns out they have a lot of in edge cases.
They do. Look, inserters are one of those really, really heavy items, which he also covers here, because you use them everywhere. They're sort of important for a factory to run in any way, shape, or form. Which is one of the... I don't know. It's been one of those things that RCD played with 3 years ago, and from memory going from 3 years ago... Definitely 2 years ago, I remember reading a Friday Facts where RCD covered inserters and he trimmed their memory down to 1/4 of the size, their memory usage per inserter to 1/4 of the size
I seem to remember that
was. Yeah, I remember that one too, which would be less than 3 years, I hope. Otherwise, I'm getting really old far too fast. So, what happens when the inserter picks up an item from A and moves it in an arc to point B? Relative to everything else, there's a couple of other things. So, when he profiled the game, so it's running through and saying, what is taking up the most amount of CPU right this second in my particular save? Each tick, the inserter has to check if it has a burner source. If it does, they have to check if the energy source is completely empty and go to sleep. If so, no fuel, can't move fuel into itself since it can never move. So if it has no fuel and can't grab any fuel, it goes to sleep. Check if the item in the inserter's hand can be used as fuel for this inserter. If it can, move the hand towards the inserter itself. Every single tick as well, it needs to check if the destination has moved away, a teleporter or a vehicle drove away. Which is one of those edge cases that if you put down an inserter and park a tank beside it, you can have the inserter fill your tank with ammo, for argument's sake. But you can also drive the tank away. So it has to check that the tank hasn't left. On the flip side, it has to check that you're not using the inserter to empty a tank, so it has to do that check as well. Check if the source or the target is marked for deconstruction. So if you mark for something for deconstruction, the inserter will stop putting stuff, into an assembler. Checked if the source has changed force, which I'm willing to bet came up from a mod, because that doesn't normally happen in base Factorio.
It's a pretty far out there edge case, that one.
Yeah, like occasionally your inserters might suddenly become controlled by the biters, just occasionally, or the source. So your belts. Check to enable it if the condition exists and the inserter is disabled by it. So, which is checking basically circuit network, or logistics network as well.
Yeah, it would be both.
Yeah, every single tick inserters have to do all that before they even pick up something and move it. Okay, it has to do all these things first. If all that passes, it moves and picks up and shoves stuff. So it's not surprising that it ends up being slow, but you can't just do any of that and say it's okay. The obvious answer is all this stuff that doesn't happen frequently are edge cases, like you're driving your tank off or your belt changing over to be the biter force. So they needed to look at some other way of accessing these or excluding these edge cases. And for the last 3 years, he hasn't been able to do much about it. But then he remembered targeters, which is something they've added within the last 3 years. So target-driven events are something they created about 2 years ago, and they're disappear-aware pointers. When the thing you target is deleted, the pointer is cleared. It's set to null pointer, which we've covered in earlier Friday Facts. I can't remember what it means, but it just means it doesn't exist. Right, Mojo?
Yeah, it's just a thing that doesn't exist.
Yep. And more importantly, there's savable and loadable pointers. So you can save the game, quit the game, and load the game, and they come back. So they're persistent in the save. The idea he had was fairly simple. Anything that can be... anything which can be targeted can go over anything targeting it, and will let the code know when some of the rare events happened. So snowballing the idea, when the inserter update inserter logic was drastically simplified with the new targeted driven events, he started to notice a few things. Mining drills share same of the most checks that inserters do. So mining drills onto a belt or mining drills straight into a train, they're always going to have to check that the train hasn't driven off or something like that. Locomotives.
The tank hasn't driven off.
Well, you don't really...
Or the belt that it's connected to hasn't changed force.
Yeah, like the belt changing force is probably high on the list. But yeah, the tank, a miner straight into a tank, not too often. But locomotives, cargo wagons, fluid wagons, they do drive off. So in the past, they were active 99% of times.
If you did one of those direct train arrangements.
Yeah, the trains never go to sleep, ever. So hopefully, actually, that's going to be interesting, because with this, it means train-based mega bases are going to get that much more powerful. Trains need a nerf.
This doesn't affect trains themselves. It affects the mining. Oh, actually, yeah.
Yeah, it will. It'll affect the wagons, even sitting on a train track doing nothing, were active entities.
Yeah, I remember a map which had ones everywhere. It's like 200 or something of them. And the game just was like a crawl because of all the pathfinding and everything.
Yeah,
and all the movement from them.
Pathfinding's been changed.
Pathfinding, but it wasn't actually pathfinding.
Although, actually, speaking of different weird maps, Stinson did a hexagon map, which is horrible because everything involves loops, because everything is hexagons with train tracks around the outside, and he used 1-1 trains. Sorry, it was octagons. I apologize.
Oh, it was actually octagons.
Yeah. And he had 1-1 trains, and I remember seeing his in-game stats, and the pathfinding was always bad. If he ever touched a train track, it would be like, we're going to come and think about this for the next 2 minutes. Yeah. Factorio still has a few issues with trains. So, back to this. The Blue Triangle module requesters has the same kind of checks. They're also active 99% of the time, even if there are no modules in your network. Logistics and construction bots had the same kinds of checks for did the target moved, and now they don't need to check that, because obviously 9 times out of 10 your requester boxes don't move, and the wall you've placed down on the map doesn't move whilst the construction bot's flying the wall there to pop it down, but occasionally it does.
Yeah, it's a rare case where you might cancel something with a decon planner or something.
No, that's cancelling. That's cancelling that have fallen into this, but occasionally they can move, like if you teleport from one surface to another, which again mods can do. So after we finish reprofiling with those entities, taking far less time, different interesting things started to show up. So burner energy source logic was doing several slow checks for the edge case behavior. Transport belts were doing an ON check every time they'd move items, when it could be done in O1 time, which goes over my head. Mojo?
I think ON is meant to be O to the power of it.
It is.
Which means it's an exponential check, exponentially expensive check. And instead it could have just been a flat linear check.
Okay.
Or linear expense. That's my guess by the terminology. It just hasn't been. It may not have been translated properly. May not have been proofread.
So it means O to the N is how they've written it in the past with
in the past.
Yeah. So in theory, that means transport belts also got heavily optimized. And anything which made smoke from consuming energy was doing several slow checks to try and make smoke when they didn't need it in most cases. So we've had inserters, mining drills, locomotives, module requests, construction logibots optimized, burner energy source, so burner inserters, boilers, all those sorts of things, they're all optimized. Transport belts have been optimized. Anything that makes smoke has also been optimized, and he's halfway done. So that moved on.
It's just the first half.
Yeah, that moved on to heat pipes. So he found out, after you go through the list, I've run profilers on my own game before and had other people do it, and it lists what uses the most CPU to the least amount of CPU. And after he's run this, inserters and belt, which are normally right at the top, are no longer showing up at the top, and they've moved down, and now heat pipes showing up higher on the list. So he went and had a look at heat pipes. The actual logic for heat pipe flow isn't even the heat pipe entity itself. The entity just defers the logic to the heat buffer class, and it got me wondering, why are we even having the update logic go through the entity if it doesn't do anything? Several days later, and a lot more code than he set out to write, I moved all the update logic to the heat for the heat flow into its own dedicated manager class, which is, for those that really want to know, that's basically means it's available to be parallelized. It's a subroutine part of the game rather than being in the main structure of the game. Like the electricity network is, the pipe network, I want to say train pathfinding is currently.
Yeah, train pathfinding's paralleled as well.
Yeah, there's a few things that have the ability to be parallelized. So yeah, it looked too good to be true. For what was a 0.55 millisecond per tick, was now showing up at 0.17 milliseconds per tick, a little over 3 times faster. But that's just not going through the entity each tick to do a heat flow. So, and a lot of the testing results were correct, and it was just that much faster because he was a little bit shocked that it was 3 times faster. The underlying algorithm didn't change, it just ran 3 times faster by now touching less memory. So it's now also a dedicated subsection of RAM that just handles just the heat. What is it called? Heat class.
Heat buffer class.
Yeah. So it's now its own dedicated little bit of memory, which means touching.
Yeah, which means, less RAM. So now,
faster, because it's touching not necessarily less RAM, but a smaller bucket of RAM to deal with, rather than trying to find something in a big
smaller
bucket.
Contiguous block.
Yeah. Rather than finding something in a small and a big, really big bucket, you're finding something in a really, really tiny bucket. So yeah, it's another example of Factorio is not always CPU bound, it's memory latency bound. More cores wasn't going to make it faster because it was never limited by how fast the CPU ran. So the conclusions. The electric network, the fluid network, and the heat pipe network, none of these interact with each other or anything outside themselves. What happens if I just update all three of these in parallel? Not surprisingly, each one of them got slightly slower, which is whatever happens when you paralyze something. Generally, where I'm just going to keep the example for now. Because they're competing for the same memory access, but overall, it was still measurably faster. The interesting thing about this is one of the three always takes significantly longer to finish than the others. It's the fluid network. That means that the others end up being essentially free. The game has to wait for the slowest one to be finished no matter what. So the faster two of the three get a free ride to the finish line before the game finishes waiting for the slowest one to be done. So, yeah. And the most extreme case he had in every test he ran was lots of steel furnace-based smelting showed a 2.3 times speed up. Which is
not a small increase.
No, it's massive. So I guess like 5k science per minute is sort of the limit now in 17.
Yeah, for fairly high-end PCs.
Yeah, I'm figuring 10k per minute. It's going to be the version 18 goal, right?
Yeah,
Just double it.
It's probably version 18 benchmark.
Yeah. CPU's always getting faster, computers are always getting faster, and Factorio is optimizing continuously. So, yeah, it's amazing what our seating's done.
Yeah, it has over the years.
Yeah. So, anything else to add to this week's Friday Facts apart from holy shit, our seating? I don't know. What do we want him to work on next?
I mean, forget the biter footprint sounds. A 2 to 3 times increase.
Yeah. Oh, look. It means that, like, okay, so at the moment I'm doing a community map. We're racing to Santa, who's at the edge of the map. We're firing thousands of artillery shells per minute to take out the worst biters you've ever seen. And we're suffering UPS issues. And a lot of that has to do with particle effects, which were fixed last Friday Facts. We're waiting for them to hit the game. But even...
You haven't got them yet.
You haven't got them yet. Yeah, that's always the thing. Like, we build something and then the Friday Facts are like, yeah, we'll fix that for you. But you gotta wait. And it normally happens just after the maps end up finishing. But yeah, it's... No matter what, we're still running a factory in the background. If I could half the UPS usage for the factory that's running to support our race to trying to make it... I think we're going to make it 40,000 tiles per day. Currently, it's a little bit of a ridiculous number, but people are running out of time.
Just tiny.
Yeah. It means that we could fire artillery faster. We could potentially make more artillery shells per minute. We could make more nukes per minute. It then becomes not a UPS factor, but now a player factor, which is optimizations make a big difference. On top of that, it means that 10k science per minute is definitely sounds like my goal for 18. Because you've done 10k science per minute, but you've used Factorio Extended, haven't you?
Yeah, that was 12k.
12k.
And it ran it wasn't the most optimized factory in the world, but it was still good for 35, 40 UPS.
Yeah. So 10k with Factorio Extended, which, if you don't know, is a mod that basically gives you tier 4 and tier 5 for everything. It gives you 2 extra tiers.
Tier 4 and 5 inserters, but generally adds 1 to 2 tiers on top of most of the machines that the game already has.
Yeah, I'm running it in my Biter Hell series, but I haven't even had a chance to deal with it yet. I'm still trying to deal with the biters and then worry about trying to have a factory that works after the fact. But yeah, like, our setting is a god. He's optimized the game again. It means people don't have to upgrade their computers for another 12 months. Thank you, our setting. You've saved the Factorio community another several $1,000s. Anything else you want to add, Brenjo?
Intel hates this person, and here's 5 reasons why.
Yeah, you're on Intel's hit list now. But yeah, I think that's it. Actually, no. I need to know when we're getting the new artillery sounds as well. Because
yes, that's very important. Someone asked about that.
We saw them so many, like,
a year ago, I swear.
I'd say it would be a year ago now, because we're at like 324, so that means anything under 270. Yeah, I'd say it was a year ago now, and they're still not in the game.
Oh, my job.
I want my artillery sounds. I want my new artillery graphics. You've hired a new sound guy. Like, just throw the old ones, the ones that you made a year ago, into the game, and he can go tweak them after the fact if he needs to.
Even if they're just the sounds of biters shuffling along the ground, throw them in the game.
Yeah, look, that's one of the things, actually. Now that they're on this path of, like, we're doing small tweaks, these sound effects, because they're literally sound files, after you've written the code to have the different sound effects show up at different times, you can experiment with the code very, very easily. It's just a matter of, like, attaching a different OGG file into the Factorio, package. So it's something I wouldn't mind them doing. I wouldn't mind them just experimenting with different...
A mod that replaces all the sounds, or just a sound randomizer.
No, that'd be horrible. But no, just sliding in some of the sounds that, like, no, we're still playing with the sounds. Here are the sounds for the biters. We've done a video on it, but we're slipping them into the next version of the game, but they're not final. They might get changed because it's one of those fairly quick and easy things to do. Sound files are quite easy to swap in and out, and there's nothing better than you can put it on a Friday Facts and get a whole bunch of people's opinions with biters walking across the screen in a video, but actually having it in game, you'd be like, yeah, I like it, or I hate it, or reasons, all that sort of stuff. It's just small things like that. I don't know. I like seeing changes. I like seeing changes, small and big, in Factorio, and it's one of the things I'm looking forward to with the new update cycle, 17 and 18. Just being able to throw in these small changes, and even if they change their mind, that's perfectly fine. But yeah, I've done my rant. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
That's
I want to
it.
go to bed.
We're done. All right. Thank you guys for watching. As always, we'll see you guys next week for Friday Facts 325, and hopefully both of us will be home at the same time.
Yeah, everything will be back to normal.
Back to normal. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. Bye.